Welcome to Phonogenics 101, a Riotboy production hosted by Jeremy Gloff. The podcast where people who love music discuss albums track by track. Please hit subscribe, and if you'd like to support this podcast, patreon.com/Jeremy Gloff or Venmo @Jeremy Gloff. And now, on to the music.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Phonogenics 101. We are here tonight to talk about Lindsey Buckingham. Thank you to all the subscribers. Thank you to the Patreon supporters. It really is appreciated that this podcast is supported because we just love to come here and just talk about music. All of us are admittedly more Stevie Nicks and Christy McVie fans. If there's someone out there that's a huge Lindsey fan that wants to jump on, we are going to do Go Insane and Out of the Cradle. We're going to do 2 more of a solo album, so we are welcoming a member of the committee. But I think these albums were popular, and they are part of the Fleetwood Mac story, so, we just wanted to give it a listen and have a discussion about it. So please bear with us as we're coming from an angle of not being huge Lindsey historians or fans, but huge fans of Fleetwood Mac. Did I do a good job? Did that sound about right?
That's fine.
So, Law and Order, Lindsey Buckingham's first album, came out in 1981, correct?
Yes.
And this is an album that I do remember being in people's record collection. You know what I mean? This album was a hit. It went beyond just the niche fans. I remember, like, my babysitter, I believe, had this album. So, this is an album a lot of people had Belladonna and they had Law and Order in 1981. This album had a big single, so it was kind of cool to go back and listen to it. What I read is that after Tusk, McFleetwood took Lindsey aside and said, "We're not doing that again," as they prepared to do Mirage, something a little bit more safe and commercial. So that prompted Lindsey to want to begin his solo career and save his more experimental stuff for the solo albums, and then safer stuff for the Fleetwood Mac albums. Years later, Lindsey would call his time with Fleetwood Mac the Big Machine, and then his solo work, was it the Small Machine or Little Machine?
Small Machine.
Yep. So this is the first chapter of the Small Machine, and I guess the Buckingham McVie album was the Medium Machine, right? So Jim, you were around when Law and Order came out. What are your memories of this album?
Okay, I've got it written down. Okay,
wonderful.
I picked up this album sometime after Go Insane came out. I think I recorded Go Insane off the radio, and it was, it's Go Insane is, there's a lot of wild stuff, but a lot of talent on that, a lot of experiments and wild stuff. So I knew of this album. I think it's because of the Trouble single that, Lindsey had a first album and said, I'll pick that up when I see it. And then I saw the cassette and I picked it up and I played it. And yes, well, I don't even have that, the CD. And it's a typical album, except it has those wild moments like like that what was on Go Insane, really out left field stuff. And I really like that stuff. It's, it's a change of pace. And it throws a lot of it's just a lot of talent and a lot of imagination and a lot of it's just like he had a kernel of something going on and then he just built it to this massive, crazy song and music at times. I listened to it and I got caught up in some of the loneliness and the melancholy in the songs when I played it. Some of the so-called slower stuff. I mean, there's some deep, introspective things on this album, and I liked it. It was really good. And that's about it for that. So
all right, well, Nathan, what was your approach to this album?
Oh, I like it. I used to have it on cassette, and uh, I give it a 9 out of 10. My mom told me once that there was when she was, I don't know, some teenage years, she said that that my grandpa was like, well, give me those records that you have because he didn't like what was on them. I don't know what it was. And this is one that he gave to her in exchange.
Oh,
Like, this is okay to listen to. This is, permitted sort of
oh,
thing.
okay.
So, but I picked it up on cassette and I used to listen to it a lot. So it's a good one.
Cool. And Alicia, you just recently came to this album, so I love having someone that's lived with it for decades, as well as someone that's coming with a very fresh perspective. So, what are some things you want to say before we go into the track by track?
Now you're making me have to think.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's a good record. It's just, I guess, I'm surprised because it's more slow, and I guess when you hear him say he wanted to do more experimental, I hear 2, maybe 3 songs, but to me, a lot of it wasn't quite as experimental as I thought it would be.
Right. So, cool. Well, my approach to the album is the first time I listened to it, I realized I need to step back and realize that this is not going to be a multi-million-dollar slick LA top 40 production, and really take the album for what it is. Somebody with a smaller studio, kind of almost, he had a few musicians on here, but this is someone just kind of doing a passion project. And I tried to imagine, like, what if Lindsey was never in Fleetwood Mac and I just came upon this album? What would I think of this just as a standalone body of work? And it really made me appreciate and enjoy the album a lot more once I took away that weightiness of Fleetwood Mac hovering. It's really a patchwork of a lot of different styles. I heard some rockabilly, some country, a lot of 50s. I do feel like this is a bridge between Tusk and Mirage in a way.
Right.
Yes.
But it's also, I like
strong point.
Yeah. I like that small machine here. So yeah, should we go into the track by track? Anything else anyone wants to add?
I'm just going to give an overview how this album did.
Okay, yeah, sure.
It had 2 videos. I don't know if you guys have seen. You've seen the Trouble video.
I saw Trouble.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And that was It's a very low production, like a green screen with a montage of pictures and stuff.
Oh.
And that wasn't as good, but it had. I was looking at some reviews, and one person had like 1 out of 5.
I saw that.
Didn't like it very much, but there was a lot of 4s and 5s and real good. It was a lot of mixed reviews. And you said about Mick Fleetwood said, you better change. We're not doing Tusk again. And let's see. Oh yeah, this is kind of an outlet after Tusk, to just get some of his creativity out, and that's what he did. And he recorded some of it, and then he worked on Mirage with Fleetwood Mac, and then came back to this and finished it. And yeah, he does that anyway all through time. He'd be working on solo, and sometimes he would scrap it and incorporate with Fleetwood Mac, and then go on. Yeah. Let's see. He described this as a sarcastic album, border on a comedy album. There's a lot of
parody, right?
There's a lot of tongue in cheek, and some of the music is kind of cartoonish, but with very serious topics or very pointed things in the lyrics. So it did chart 32 on Billboard as the album, and the Trouble did at 9 on Billboard. And I heard that on the radio, and I liked that. I liked it, and I didn't know who it was, and it was some of that early 80s stuff.
Yeah.
When like the Cars and Blondie, and it would fit right in with all that stuff. So and that's about all I have to go across, just the background of this. It's a good little project, and it had some success on the radio. So it wasn't like they're no one ever heard of it.
Right.
If
Trouble was a
Lindsay's
big hit.
this one comment, if Lindsay wanted to be this dude rock star, he could have compromised himself and been that. I was thinking I was listening to this album, and I know Joe Walsh's albums, and they're kind of, they're like Lindsay's over here and Joe's over here, and how they sound and everything, but they're more together in their mind and their attitude and kind of their, it kind of how they are.
Philosophy.
It just kind of struck me as that
Yeah.
that Joe Walsh has a lot of funny things in his work, and here Lindsay has some. It's a little bit more bitter and pointed. It's a little
strong point, Jim.
Okay, it's a little bit more bitter and pointing fingers,
yes,
without really pointing fingers. But that's what I kind of.
It's not as funny. It's not as funny as Joe Walsh somehow. It's more of a. It's a little bit more like acerbic or something, isn't it, Jim?
Yeah.
Joe Walsh is more goofy.
Well, Troubled was definitely a big hit. I remember being on the radio, and if you put it in 1981, you heard Trouble on the radio right alongside all the Stevie Nicks singles that were out from Belladonna. So, yeah, cool. And an interesting thing when you listen to this album is Lindsey changes his voice from song to song, where he almost sounds like a different singer, and he really, stretches. I don't want to say stretch because it doesn't seem like he's. I feel like stretch has a negative thing, but I feel like he's really showing the range of the different voices he can have, and the different the different personas and characters that he can assume in his songs, more so than maybe on a Fleetwood Mac album. So, all right, track one of the first song on the Small Machine, Buona. It's a little. I feel like I'm walking through Busch Gardens, going through like Zootopia, the jungle. It's a signature of kind of what we hear on the album. Lindsey doing his rat-ta-ta background vocals. It's definitely not. Jim, when you said like Lindsey could have gone slick, I feel like Lindsey in the '80s could have done all the soundtrack slick songs that Kenny Loggins did if he had wanted to.
Oh yeah, that's a good example.
Lindsey could have had those kind of hits if he wanted to.
He could have been a Jackson Brown or even a Warren Zevon in a way.
Well, he had Holiday Road.
Yep, Holiday Road.
He had Holiday Road. He was on the Back to the Future soundtrack with something.
Okay, weird. Time Bomb Town. My son loves that song.
Yeah,
I feel like he could have milked that.
Jim? I can't remember. Jim, is that a good song? I don't remember. I only listened to it one time and didn't like it.
Time Bomb Town.
Yeah.
Yes, it has kind of a lot of a little picking there, and it's kind of subtle. It's not in your face.
Okay.
It's a good background soundtrack song.
I'm getting in there.
Holiday Road is such a hit song. Like the first time you hear it, you're like, it has hit written all over it.
Come on, how many companies do you? I love that song. How many companies use that in commercials?
How many TV shows?
6.
Oh, really?
6 major companies. I bet you we're up to 6. Sorry, Jeremy. What were you gonna say?
I said there was recently a TV show that had Holiday Road in it, so that's still, I think that's not the song people think of first when they think of Lindsey Buckingham, but that's, it's still part of our culture. 30 years later, 40, whatever.
It clocks in under, I think it clocks in at 2 minutes or slightly under. It's really short, but it has a lot. You feel like you're listening to like a 3.5, 4 minute.
Right.
It's just here and gone, but you get a lot of energy or just excitement about it.
And it's quite interesting to listen to him bark at the end.
Yes, that's actually a real bark,
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
As far as I know,
Lindsey to actually do the barking and then tweak it in the studio. And
is it the Tusk dog?
From what I heard, it's an actual clip of a dog, but I could be wrong. So,
all right.
So Buona is a geographical location, is it not?
Oh,
what do you all think of Buona? Buona. Alicia, what did you think when you
Um,
put in this album? This is the first thing you hear.
Yeah.
Well, my question was what was with all the crickets? Like, and what I mean by that is at the end, I was expecting the crickets as the outlude. You know,
Right.
like we're going into the forest. Here we're going to play a bunch of music, like a bunch of people out in the woods, and then come. So it's just kind of weird.
Google tells me that Buona is a noun that means master or boss. It's an
Right.
African word.
Or
Is everybody aware of that?
Yeah, I read the description. Some it's reference to Jesus or Lord or Mister or another. It's kind of a term of endearment. Like your husband's doing something wrong somewhere. Where's Buona?
Oh,
Oh, he's doing something he shouldn't be doing.
I see.
I'm just looking for
So
my
it's
Buana in the world.
Other than that, I mean, it's a nice song. I was having a hard time listening to him because his vocal he's shooting
Up
up
and down.
and back and forth.
It's a wild vocal take, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's definitely letting loose. But I like this song. Do you all like it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Music wise.
Do my thing.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yes. It's funny. I was playing it yesterday and taking notes and I thought, am I playing this or not? And it takes like 5 or 6 seconds before you really start hearing it coming in. It's coming in real slow.
Right.
It's like there's nothing for first 3 seconds, really hardly anything. And if you had your stereo cranked up and earphones on, you probably could hear something from the get-go. But there's hardly anything until about 5 or 6 seconds, which is Fleetwood Mac songs do this too. Over My Head really starts really quiet on the album cut, at least. And let's see, it's a highly creative tune, very catchy and cartoonish in a good way. Very good vocals and additional vocals. I can't begin to guess what instruments were used on this music, and I really don't want to. It might take some of the joy out of it. If you got to the preciseness of the shoe boxes or whatever, then you say, oh, that's, it takes some of the mystery out of it.
The magic, the mystery. I agree. I'd like to get specific on the lyrics. Oh, sorry, Jim.
Yeah, and the term visitor is a reference to Mick. I think Lindsey, I read an interview. It could be a reference to the album or Mick being the visitor when he did his album. And it might be poking a little fun at him or maybe just promote him a little bit. So, and then we went over
little cross promotion, right, JG?
Nothing wrong with that.
So this was a fun, great little first, introducing Lindsey to the world as a solo artist.
All right, so Nathan, you said you wanted to go into the lyrics a little bit?
Well, Jim makes a great point about the visitor.
Right.
I think the first verse, in addition to what Jim said, I would add that the first verse really thematically is similar to, well, I guess it reminds me of both Tusk and Tango in the Night. Right.
Okay.
Because what the lyrics, what they're describing, the imagery of it is almost like the Tango in the Night cover.
Right.
But then, the word, the village and the jungle, those things are pretty clear
for more. Yeah.
To Tusk, right? So then we have that. And that's what I would say.
All right. Well,
I'm sorry. The word demons is in there. We know that that's a thing with Lindsey. I think that's
demons sometimes
we see
the little demon.
Yeah, we see that little.
All right.
thing.
So, any other thoughts? I give it a thumbs up. Alicia, go ahead.
So my comment is, for the Buona is the visitor in control of your own fate. It almost is like a little bookend for Satisfied Mind.
Okay.
What's the lyric in Satisfied Mind?
Well, when I was listening to it this morning, Satisfied Mind talks about if you could be a rich guy, but then he's discussing all about, it's not all about fame and fortune. Sometimes, that requires you giving up so many things like your youth, your this, your that. So
Right.
best thing is to have a satisfied mind.
Ah, right.
And
So
you
it's
mentioned the lyrics for this song, and it's sort of, I thought about this when I heard it yesterday. It's like that big machine putting pressure on him to do things he doesn't want to do. Uh, in a way, I think there's some of that. And control your own fate. It's like the visitor's trying to control him, and he might be pointing at Nick,
Oh,
or it's
And so, uh-huh.
so.
And so, Alicia, is the connection, Alicia, is the connection for you in control of your own fate and satisfied mind, or the bookends? Am I getting that?
yes, that's what I was trying to
Okay.
say. Kind
Yeah,
of
Right.
like he's
that's a
thinking
good.
Thank you.
more like philosophical, the little nuggets.
Yeah, yeah.
and
I
truly,
get
Lindsey
that.
was in control of his own fate here more so than on the other stuff.
Yes.
But he's there's a lot of, I think a lot of his stuff he's and Stevie does the same thing. They sing about what's going outside the project. That kind of sells it, in a way. But it's their lives. They're just singing about their lives, and as we go further in this album, there's some other things that do come up that say about the craziness of his life. He was trying to settle down and kind of get away from some things that were going on.
All right. Well, I give Buana a thumbs up. I think it's a good
Oh yeah, it's
start to the album.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Track
Some
2.
strong points made. Yeah.
Track 2, the hit single. Now, when I heard this, I'm like, he's doing that higher 1, a 2, a 3 at the beginning. I'm like, oh,
Yes.
Lindsey, why you got to be so damn weird? But then I'm like, you know what, Lindsey, go for it. Maybe this is who he is. It might be an inside. I could see it being like an inside joke that only those guys know. Who knows why I put that weird beginning on such a pop song? But we're in the small.
There's that sarcasm Jim mentioned.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the sarcasm. And he might be
Yeah.
making fun of 1, 2, 3, 4, the generic beginning of so many rock band songs. Maybe he's
yeah.
parroting that. So okay, I'm here
You
for
hear
it.
you hear Christine a lot in live shows. Go 1, 2, 3, 4. He's not making fun of that, but there's a lot of that in recordings. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
But he makes a real. It's funny. I didn't know what this was. The 1, 2, 3, 4, or the 2, 3, 4, until I looked at the video yesterday with like Bob Welsh and some other guys.
Bob Weston too, 2 ex-Fleetwood Mac members.
Yeah, the Weston, and the first person I saw in the clip was Bob Welsh. I think it was him.
Yeah.
And then I saw their lips, and then okay, that's 2, 3, and 4. Okay, he's kind of making fun of like the intros but it sounds like some very primal stuff. It sounded very primal. It was awesome.
Bob Welsh denies that he was in that video, but that sure as hell looks like Bob Welsh to me. All right. Well, I feel like Trouble is, the classic Lindsey Buckingham song. I love the melodic guitar he has in the chorus. This is a great song. It definitely sounds like the single from the album to me compared to some of the edgier stuff, but it's a great song. Just like,
Yeah.
What do y'all think of Trouble?
Anybody?
Thumbs up. What are your
8 out of
notes?
10. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
I know. I
Jim.
end up thinking
Go ahead,
of
Alicia.
oh gosh. I always seem to be quoting the chorus when things are happening. That
Right.
seems to be I heard it 4 or 5 years ago. That always comes to me when I start quoting it. But it's just a perfect 2 little lines. I think I'm in trouble. I should be
Right.
working on the double. So
What about them, Alicia?
it seems it's like the perfect quote, like lyric wise. I think I'm in trouble. I should be running on the double.
It's like the perfect pop chorus.
And it could be
Yes.
I'm
running
in trouble and
forward.
double. It's pretty advanced. But yeah, which is why it's perfect. Yeah, Alicia, I agree.
and what I can get from that lyric is it could be running towards someone that you're in trouble with or away. It could mean either thing. That's what I kind of get from that. It's
strong point, Jim. Damn strong point.
It's a bit open-ended, so who knows? It's a very romantic retro type song, and it fits within a lot of the early 80s music. There was just a lot of good, interesting things out there at that time. Great guitar work and vocal layering. Mick Fleetwood on drums, but it was only a 4-minute drum loop they used. They just couldn't get it right for some reason. They said, we'll just loop it, and then that's what they did.
Just like they did on Dreams.
Oh, Dreams is a loop? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, I remember when this came out on the radio, and I liked it. It was kind of this afternoon, 2:30 in the afternoon song, and it's very pleasant, and the nice little pleasant song to hear. And then later, of course, I found out who it was, an MTV era, and everything got exposed to me, and I learned about the whole lexicon of what I like.
So, Alicia, when you heard the song, did this jump out to you as a single or as a hit?
Yes. And he sings some really high notes for this song, or at least this recording. It's beautiful. I guess a tenor. Would he be considered?
Yeah.
Because it just, for this song, he really was floating, and it's a great song. It does stick out. The other one that stuck out was Shadow of the West, or September Song.
Okay.
And then I liked Satisfied Mind. I thought that could have gone to the country stations.
Yeah, he definitely touches on a lot of different genres on this album. When I was listening to it, I was like kind of surprised to be reminded of, like I said, there's some country, some 50s, some rockabilly, some kind of like torch ballads, and then some classic, Lindsey Buckingham pop, which I feel like this song is. Does anyone have any other thoughts on Trouble?
Yeah. This whole album, I think, together just fits together really well as a package of songs, all the way through as one single thing. You guys know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's worth. And this, if you were to look at it on one of those like a stock market graph, the whole album, this might be. I don't know if it's probably the peak. It's a clear single to me, followed by maybe a couple of those others that Alicia mentioned. And this is kind of weird. I've mentioned it, Jeremy, on the podcast before about other songs, but I kind of have this theory. So especially in 1981, we all know that, not to quote Stevie here, but young people buy music generally,
right?
And so that's who they're. So I think that there's certain phrases that the metaphor of being in trouble, I think, is one that would grab a kid's attention.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, right. And so I think that I just think, marketing wise, pop song wise, all that stuff, that's worth mentioning too, that I think it kind of gets traction psychologically with a young audience because of the use of that metaphor, because it's a metaphor. You're not physically in anything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so, so that's all. I like it. I like when he does it in concert. I'm trying to think. I can hear in my head really clearly how he does it acoustically, but I can't quite remember how he does. Doesn't he do a full band version on some tours? Anyway, he's done it every time I've seen him live, and it's always good. Makes me swoon and sway. So
he did it on the Buck McVie tour, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
good. 9.5 out of 10 for me. Because if I'm being honest, it could rock just a tiny. I agree with what Alicia said. It is beautiful, and that's a strong point. But it's like it could rock just a tiny bit harder. So I'm gonna say 9.5.
Who's on the bass on this one?
George Hawkins.
George
He
Hawkins.
was a
Okay.
zoo member. He's one of the zoo member.
Okay.
That part, the drunken mess of the zoo. There's.
Pre
I mean, I read Mick's book. There was they did their share. That's for sure.
Becca Bramlett, right?
Yeah. Well, Bramwell took part in that too. So.
All right. Well, any other thoughts on Trouble? I think we all can give it thumbs up. This is a great fucking
it's
song.
good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next. Mary Lee Jones. I felt this song was kind of a 50s throwback. It's an up tempo. I love it.
I wish the guitar was a little bit longer at the end. It's
Hmm.
like he gets starting and then you're like, okay. And then it like fades out and you're like, seriously.
Yeah. Okay.
Nathan brought up something interesting to me, that it's hard for me to pick these songs apart because it all seems like one big body of work. Like I really listened to it like 3 or 4 times in a row, and some of it just kind of all blends.
Yeah.
Like all the songs are different, but it's so cohesive that it just seems like a big suite of songs in a way.
Exactly.
Well, and I know what you mean because the first time I listened to it, I couldn't figure out which is which.
Right.
Yeah.
It was the second and third time when I started pulling out. So yes, but it seems like the first side A seemed to be more the 50s,
Mhm.
kind of more, and then the second side seemed to be more the rockabilly country side.
Right.
Okay.
At least when I was listening to it, that's kind of how it made me feel like.
All right, Jim, what's your thoughts on Mary Lee Jones?
Well, I'm trying to, you guys were talking about things that not sound the same, but it's kind of hard for a person that does all the instrumentation, nearly all, which is great.
Right.
And, all the vocals to have it kind of have a breakup or a variation. But I mean, there's a lot of them that vary drastically, but that's what my wife always says. I don't like Lindsey because all these stuff sounds the same. Well, I mean, that's her opinion, and I understand that, but it's very hard when you don't have help to really have that classic album, have something that just there's like Rumor's a prime example of that, where you have different artists and different inputs coming in and having a center, and and it works. But it's kind of hard for someone that does nearly all the vocals and all the instrumentation to kind of make it noticeable, and iconic. But it's not a bad thing. I mean, there is so many artists that I'm thinking, like Todd Rundgren. I don't know if he does all of his instrumentation, but it's great music. And like ELO is pretty much Jeff Lynne. It's great music, but it doesn't have like the counterpoint, like Lennon, McCarthy, and things like that. You have a point, and you have a Harrison over here. You have this great all these inputs, and that's not a bad thing. It's just what it is. So
That's right.
okay, I mean, that's my speech.
I kind of like Lindsey kind of being the mad scientist on this one.
Yeah,
and taking all the parts.
Yeah,
Well, it makes me think of like classical music. It all flows together. And this is kind of like what you were saying with Sweet. He really does know how to move the tempos, and it's just put it on and listen to it all the way through.
Right.
Um,
I think it's some of the early
instead of Mozart's 18th, Alicia, it's Lindsey Buckingham's first.
Yeah.
yeah.
I kind of think of some of the early Prince albums where Prince played every single instrument.
Well, what this brought to my mind was Kate Bush, because she does a lot of
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
that's those kind of yodels and different sounds, and she does a lot of the studio magic, or she did. in
And I'm
her.
sure Lindsey would be thrilled to be compared to Kate Bush over the
I
Eagles.
I like Kate Bush in the Hall of Fame too, though.
Yeah.
A lot of them, these last women really got represented now. They're catching up. I think that's starting to get filled back in to where it should be. I mean, geez, there was like Hart was way long time after they should have been in, and Linda Ronstadt and so forth.
All right. Well, any other thoughts on Mary Lee Jones?
Okay.
Just wonder who it's
I'll
about.
think anybody started. I think it's a bit of a swipe at Stevie. I think Final Days of Mary Jones, it could have been someone else, but I think it's a bit of a swipe. And this, the vocals that up and down, it's kind of like a roller coaster, a roller coaster of a relationship and a vocal. I didn't write that down, but I think it's an up-tempo song that moves along, it just moves along. And that raw guitar work at the end is good. But I made a note here. A lot of textures on this album were incorporated in Mirage.
Yeah.
This really helped Mirage be, Lindsey got his creativity out, and he took some of the better parts and put it in Mirage. And then Mirage has a lot of that older sounds with like a modern production, and it really worked.
He definitely used some of the blueprints here.
And it took some of that jarriness of the Tusk. A lot of Lindsey's work was jarry, where some of the muddled stuff of Stevie and Christine's work, and made it sharper, made it kind of like, wow, there's no question this is well put together.
Right. All right. Any other thoughts on Mary Lee? I give it a thumbs. I think I give everything on this album a thumbs up, actually. But
it's good. It's come down a little, but it's good.
All right, next. I'll Tell You Now. I love this song. To me, I just really got lost in it. It just had a nice vibe. What do y'all think of this one?
It felt like the background vocalist he was trying to recreate as Stevie. It made me feel like this was a song wanting to
Okay.
do, like a Fleetwood Mac sort of thing.
Okay.
I definitely feel there's definitely some atmosphere in this one.
Okay. Yes. I read that this was the first song written for the album, and it could have been on Tusk if it was just a month or so earlier.
Oh,
if it was
right.
written. So, and then Alicia mentioned Stevie being on it, and then there you go. It's kind of like this was, when you work on a big project and you start writing new stuff, it kind of mirrors what the previous project was. So that may have been something that Alicia noticed that, well, Stevie could have been on this, or this or that. So let's see. I think it's a bit slow and plodding. Oh, the sobbing at the end, I get the point of that. And I think some Christine McVie help would have put this song on a different level. I think that there's probably a lot of, there could have been a lot of holes to fill to make this really an awesome song.
Could have been a Big Machine song.
It could have been this could have been a Big Machine with Christine with playing and backing and or whatever, and Stevie on it. That might have really been something.
Oh, Nathan, what did you think of this one?
Well, Jim made some strong points, and I concur with those points. This is another one that I think could have been a single, and it sounds a little bit like it fits very well with That's All Right and Oh Diane and some of those other ones that were done right around this time. And they according to Wikipedia, they recorded this at Larrabee Studios, which is the same place where they did some of the work on Mirage. And so maybe there was even overlap in sessions. Probably, I would think not for billing purposes,
right,
or whatever, but maybe. Who knows? So I'll Tell You Now. I think it's a hot one, super hot.
Okay.
All right. Well, any other thoughts on this one? I definitely give it thumbs up. Another one.
It's it's okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Alicia, do you have something to add?
No, I mean I'm just kind of reading the lyrics, and it makes me realize there's not much there.
It's a it's like it's a vent. It's getting like your emotions off, and
Right.
Yeah,
it's very atmospheric. It's got this little pace to it. It's really nice.
well, I mean, I've been listening to the record the last 2 days, so
Right.
Yeah,
I've
it's hard to,
enjoyed the song, but now I'm looking at the lyrics going, oh, he doesn't say too much.
I tell you now.
All right. Well, next. It was I. I feel like we're staying in the 50s here a little bit. And I feel like this is kind of a precursor again to some of the stuff that you'd hear on Mirage as far as like that 50s throwback. But I like it. What do y'all think of it was I? It was I.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, Carol Ann Harris is mentioned in the liner notes as doing vocals on this,
Mm-hmm.
and I listened to it kind of hard, and maybe I can tell there's another person. It kind of makes it a little fuller, so you know. And to me, this song kind of came up short. I was kind of waiting at the end for like a punchline, you know, um, it was I, and then what happened, and I was waiting for like the next jab or something, and it just wasn't there. It's kind of a bridge to the next, and now right here, next slow song, which is another. There's three in a row here,
Right.
and it's not a terrible song, but it doesn't light the world on fire either. It, it.
Yeah.
All right. Nathan and Alicia, anything to add on this one?
It's a really
Alicia.
Go ahead, Alicia, and then we'll do Nathan.
maybe Nathan might be better.
Nope, nothing to add.
Well, I mean, it's one of those songs that the lyrics are really good, and you can tell that didn't he have like a really long-term girlfriend after Stevie?
Yep, and she's
Yeah,
actually singing on it. That's the one that's singing on the song.
Yeah,
Hey, sorry.
and that was
I'll
a
be judging you.
7 year. That was a 7 year relationship. So, I mean, it was stormy. She wrote the book Storms. So,
Right.
and I haven't read it. I read pieces, or I read a ledge. I looked back and like yesterday, and I looked at a ledge description of it, and I don't think there's enough in there to really go out there and buy it on a Kindle or something. It's probably, and you don't really, is this true or not, or is it just hearsay, or uh, watching
Eyewitness testimony, Jim. It's eyewitness testimony.
Yeah, I liked the book personally. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, I mean,
I don't know, Jim. I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, I've read it, but yeah.
Watching all that footage of the tusk and them in the dressing room, that's real, and that's true to me. And what Carol Ann may have said, I haven't read it. I mean, but to me, that's that era for me. All that craziness and the hair combing and all the weird antics and Christine being, that's that era for me. I don't need to read someone's book when I can see some footage that's just raw and it's very blurry, and they're cocaine and drinking and just being, and they're very eccentric, goofy people, and all that mixed together. And that's that era for me. Wow. Seeing that, I don't need a book.
It was according to Wikipedia, was not written by LB, wasn't it? Isn't it by Paxton, Gary Paxton?
Okay.
Yeah, this song here. Yeah.
So we all aware of that? Okay. I think you might already said that, Jim. Anyway, the only thing I can tell you on this one is, well, I also wanted to mention Alicia on that what was that last song we were talking about? I'll tell you now. You're right. They're in shit in those lyrics, is there? That's
There is
terrible.
not.
And then this one has great
Sounds
lyrics
great
and
listening to it, but it
I mean, this one has great lyrics, allegedly, you guys say, but he didn't, because I don't remember them. I just remember the chorus. But he didn't write these ones. Okay. And then, in addition, on Wikipedia, at one of the very last pieces here in the article, says that in an interview with Jim Ladd, Buckingham described "It Was I" as blah blah blah. It's apparently it's about the first pain in a relationship, sort of is the idea. But there's a Jim Ladd, Lindsey Buckingham interview out there that I haven't heard, and it must be from the early '80s. So so hopefully somebody watches this and kicks down, right, Jeremy?
yeah, bring it on, people. If anyone out there,
It's getting harder. It's getting harder to find these old interviews.
You'd think as time went by, it'd be easier and easier to find things, but like even finding stuff on eBay,
Well,
it's hard. Like it's been gotten harder to get that stuff. Go ahead, Nathan.
I know somebody who probably has it. Someone who's been on this podcast, whose name I will not say.
Okay.
All right. Well, I still give "It Was I" thumbs up.
It's another kind of.
All right. Does anyone else have anything they want to add on this one before we continue on to the next slow song? It's now September song, which to me is, we went from fast 50s to slow 50s. This one probably is my least favorite song on the album, only because I don't really like these kind of songs by any artist at any time. Like it's just not kind of the thing, my go-to kind of thing. So is there anyone here that loves this song that wants to?
Which one?
A September song.
Well, yeah, I like it. I like it.
Jim, what are your notes on this one?
Okay. There's some. This is some good there's good singing on this, and I like it in an old school way. And the romanticism of the song saves it. I mean, the material. Well, the material's good enough to kind of it. Well, Lindsey didn't pen this. This is by like a collaboration of 4 people that I won't name. It's like there's a lot of Bob Dylan used to refer to this as Tin Pan Alley, where it's kind of like a songwriting machine. There's 4 or 5 people that go in there and they bounce ideas off themselves, and they write a tune, and they throw it to an artist.
Of course, Tin Pan Alley was a real thing. It's a reference to a real, right? Okay.
Yeah.
He sings hard in this song, doesn't he? But I guess then once again, you can't really take it seriously because he already said, as Jim said, there's that sarcasm, which, as my grandmother would say, is anger's ugly cousin. We don't like sarcasm, that I would say.
And I think it's safe to venture that Lindsey had some anger to deal with in 1981, coming off the Tusk tour.
well, and that was what made me ask about "It Was I," because was he talking about Stevie or was he talking about that Carol person? Or that long relationship.
Right. Yeah, I didn't realize it until looking at the credits that there's 3 songs Lindsey didn't write on this album. Of course, this being one of them. But there's 3 covers here out of the 11 songs. Jim, what are your notes on this one? Anything else?
No, that's it. It's really it's a cover of. If I had a little more time, I probably would have referred to the originals and stuff.
Right.
I've done that with others. But I like it more than the previous 2 in an odd way. It's just it's classical like the early pop days or something.
Yeah, like it makes me think of Platters. Very sweeping, very
makes me want to order onion rings. All right, I give it. This is one I'm gonna have to give Sideways to. I think
it's okay. It's good.
All right, next, Shadow of the West. This is the one that features Christy McVie singing, correct?
Yes.
which I can't really hear her. She's definitely blended in. Her voice doesn't stick out. He definitely hasn't mixed in. I liked it. This one, would you say it was a little country-ish, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very like it's I could add a like a coin of phrase even deserty. There's a lot of things we've gone through that has this it really brings out you're in the morning heat of the desert, and this is kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, I think a tumbleweed definitely could go
Oh
by.
yeah, this is Lindsay's talked about this album being a lot of 40s. It must be like the Gene Autry era or stuff like that. I don't know if the Gene Autry was that 40s. You know,
Okay.
you know,
I
I
keep
don't
saying
know.
50s, but maybe it's 40s. I guess I don't have a strong education in
It's kind of
good old days.
there were cowboys, but they weren't
Strong
really
point, Jim.
cowboys. What? They were cowboys, but they weren't really cowboys. It's kind of like movie cowboys songs. Okay.
All right. Well, what does everyone else think of this one? Alicia, do you have anything to add?
Well, the lyric that caught my attention when I was listening to this song, memories like shadows scorched in the sand.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm alone, I'm a lonely man. So that was the one that kind of stuck with me because it seems to be like the little thread that runs through about loneliness, about
Mhm.
goes back to that satisfied mind. That seems to be kind of seeing the little kernels there.
Right.
I thought it was interesting. And I was trying to figure out what the shadow of the West was.
Right.
It's well,
How is he the shadow of the
Do
West?
the lyrics give us any? Do the lyrics give us any clue on that?
it's an up for interpretation.
I always
And
felt like it was a shadow of the West Coast rock scene.
no, well, it's to me,
Overshadowed by the big machine.
yeah. Okay. This okay. This song really hit me hard emotionally. It's like, I just like hearing when you hear a song for the first time and it just hits you, because the words are so understandable and the guitar work and the mood pulls you in. And it was I just I felt I was the shadow of the West. I was, in South Dakota, single, and I'm not really, I was just alone and farming with the family. And, I took this very hard, and Stevie was having her troubles. You don't know if she's going to be around the next year or two because I could tell she was she was going down that fast hill. I knew it, and it just like, oh my, you know, I wish I could help, but I couldn't, and it conjured some old feelings. And it's a very effective song about someone's mortality. The law would allow that line there. That's the title of the album. In a way, it's not word for word. Everything that the law would allow is one of the lyrics, and it's Law and Order is the album. So it's a nice way of putting the album title subtly in a lyric, you know, and pulling it out and making it the title.
Right.
And it's the hidden album title in that lyric.
All right.
I'm sorry. In which song, Jim?
What?
Shadow of the
Which
West.
song?
Shadows of
And
the
that's
West.
that's where trouble comes from.
That's what.
Where the
No,
law comes from?
Law and Order. Anything that the law would
That's where Law and
allow,
Order comes from.
everything.
Oh,
It's kind of like you're keeping things close to the vest without,
right.
ending up behind bars. You
And
can be a little.
and of course, if we break the law, then what happens to us? We get in
Trouble.
Sometimes you Oh, hey, that's a good a build up on every these songs tying together too.
Right. These songs
And
really
these
do work
days,
great together.
in these days, you don't have to break the law to be arrested, but that's another another story.
All right. Well, I give
When
Shadow
the
of the West
podcast is oh yeah, about 2 thumbs.
2 thumbs
When,
up.
when this is over, JG, we end gang. We should talk to. We should. I have a story to tell you all about meeting Lindsey Buckingham. That's
Okay.
embarrassing that I can't tell
You can't
on
tell
the
on
podcast because
online.
it's too embarrassing.
Okay.
It's stupid.
All right.
You-
Survey
you-
says, obviously this is next song. That's how we do it in LA. Is a tongue-in-cheek kind of parody song. Lindsey being wacky, but I always loved this song from when I was a kid, and I had the vinyl
Yeah.
when I was a kid. We have the Lindsey background vocals. La, da, da. When I listen to this in the car, I sing the background vocals. Obviously his disenchantment with the big machine is coming through in these lyrics here.
Yeah. Mhm.
They'll win prizes. And coming from Lindsey, someone that was on top of the world, I think it's safe to say that you can be on top and still not have happiness or everything you want. So I like that his disenchantment came out in this goofy, bitchy song.
Yeah.
What do y'all think of this song?
Okay, I could go.
Okay, Jim, then Alicia.
Yeah. It's a bizarre and fun song. Who else could do this vocal? Just who else?
Nobody.
It's a self-made thing. I had to translate some of the lyrics. There's some Spanish / Portuguese, and one of them is "Que Sera Sera," which was what was that? The Doris Day song back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I had to do some interpret. I had to type in this stuff, and I just hearing it without knowing that, it's just the bizarreness. You don't have to really know the lyrics to enjoy it. Let's see. Oh, nice guitar work. Oh, the bell at the front in that holler. It sounds like something from a restaurant, or it's weird. It's kind of, you kind of get it, but you don't get it. It's an inside joke that you half get.
I felt like he was referencing Family Feud, because isn't that what they say? Survey says.
Oh yeah. And then my next thing I said, is this a song or a game show? I mean,
yeah.
Some deep there is some deep irony to the song and the album, and total. Okay.
All right, Alicia, and then Nathan.
Well, the first time going through, after listening to what, 4 rather slow songs or slower mid-tempo, this was kind of a jarring song because you hear kind of the survey says and all the it's like, what the?
Yeah.
But after hearing, I mean, as an independent song by itself, it's actually fun. It's I agree with Jeremy. It's a fun song. All right, this is how we do it. I
Yeah.
can, and it's did I say this before or after? I feel like this song would be a good. Maybe somebody can tell me. Listening to this made me think he could do like a medley with this and Mr. Rock Cock, and a couple other songs from Out of the Cradle as like a medley.
Okay.
Just the way it flows and the themes that he's discussing, because
I was never a big fan of Not That Funny, but I feel like he's using the Not That Funny voice in a song that I like a lot more than Not That Funny. Like this time around, I love the voice. I love what he's doing here.
it sounds like a carnival song that he's doing. and so, yeah, this is one of those songs you can sing and kind of.
It kind of makes sense that the whole music scene, West Coast thing, it kind of is a bullshit carnival. So
yeah,
the irony is not lost on us.
It's funny. I listened to this and I said, is he complimenting LA or is he taking down LA? This is how we do it in LA. Is I think he's probably taken down LA a little bit,
Right, a little
but
bit of
he
both.
might be saying, "Hey, this is how we do it in LA. I know it's wild. I know it's effed up, but this is how we do it in LA, and you can just stop getting on our case about it." It could be said, interpreted that way too.
So Nathan, what's your take on this one?
It's a lonely, lonely, lonely way, and it's the only way.
I like it. I agree with Jim on this one.
Well,
One of
thumbs
my
up.
favorites.
Thumbs up
Yeah.
all around.
Yes.
All right, so next we're getting weird again. Johnny Stew. This song
I'm
kind
loving
of
this one.
has that peacekeeper beat. Like I feel like this is a beat that kind of shows up in some Lindsey songs. What the hell's going on with the grunting and snorting in the middle?
Thank
Stew.
you.
All
It was
right.
a great song until that part. I was just like,
I thought the song was over, and then I hear some like pigget noise. I'm like, oh. Then the song comes back in. I'm like, Stew. Lindsey had the time of his life recording. He probably never had as much fun in the studio as he did recording Johnny Stew.
No, yeah.
All right.
I think it's one of the best songs maybe in his whole, certainly from, I don't know, I guess his whole catalog, but I know 85-90% of it.
Right.
And know all that pretty well. I think this is one of his best songs. For me, this song really really captures the essence of a lot of different emotions. I don't know any of them are positive. For me, when I hear this song, and I've listened to it a lot, but there's a lot of sort of anger and
right. It's dark.
It's a dark, demony song here, and so this is one I don't just listen to for funsies, because it's almost like it's you guys know what I'm saying? What's the word? It's almost like
it's ominous.
Too dark. So, but I really like it. But in his whole catalog, so that's what makes it one of his best songs for me.
It takes
so
a
this
worried
is one,
man.
For me, it's a favorite on the album.
It takes a worried man to sing a worried song. That's a great line.
It's like it now takes a worried man to sing a worried song. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's maybe in the past there was less things to worry about, and you can sing a worried song, but are you really worried? I don't know. It could be said that way. I'll go.
Go ahead.
Yeah. It should have been a hit song somewhere, but no one as weird as us. I mean, to us, this is a hit. Absolute. When I first heard that, yes, I don't care about the grunting or the hollering or whatever.
Oh, I love it, actually. I love it too.
This is great. This is great art. Oh, and is the Johnny part a hat tip to John McVie? I just wondering about that.
Yeah, does anyone have any idea who Johnny Stew is?
Strong point, Jim. Could be. Nope, no idea. But it must be. Maybe it's his alter ego of some kind, sort of.
Yes, and that weirdness in the middle, I think that's awesome. I mean, it's just, I think it was probably spontaneous, and he just recorded it and went with it. Okay.
It's so fucking genuinely weird. And sometimes in the past, I feel like Lindsey was trying to be weird. I feel like it didn't. I felt like there was an effortless to this. Like he was just really, truly expressing himself.
Yeah. And a song so great, it became a ledgy handle. I had to put that in there.
Oh, yeah.
Johnny Stew. I hope he watches this. I don't know if he's still in this ledgy world. It's a wonderful example of what the human spirit is capable of. It's just human beings being with no limits, with no walls, no limits, and being themselves and just blurting it out. And this could be about, who knows what this is basically about. It
being
could be
hungry.
about, you said this could be something about something that's very dark, like it was, you guys mentioned, or the music's very up and happy and wild, but the thing about the worried man, that's kind of dark. So, it's kind of up for interpretation.
Maybe
And
it's like.
but
Go ahead, Jim.
it
Sorry.
was this was a blast. You can just absolutely tell this was a
Yep.
blast to do and work on.
Yeah. Maybe instead of Johnny Stew, it's like Johnny Stew, and he's asking his friend out to a new soup and salad restaurant. So there are a lot of
Maybe.
different ways that we can take this.
So,
right next to Stevie Nicks' enchiladas is Lindsey's Johnny Stew. All right, well, thumbs up, right?
Yes, it's one of the better.
Alicia,
Joe Walsh, like I talked about Joe Walsh, or Joe Walsh did some wacky stuff, and this is kind of in a different way like that.
Alicia, what were your thoughts when you were hearing this for the first time and then this song came up? Were you like, what the fuck?
Well, the first part of it, I mean, it's a completely different song than the rest. And I don't mean that meanly. I mean, just tempo, textures. So it grabbed my attention.
Right.
And the guitar work is fantastic because this is when he really pulls out the guitar and he's doing some solos. And then as it kind of wind down, I went, oh, okay. And then, of course, when I heard all the grunting and everything, I'm like, what? Oh. This is where you go, okay, this is one of the weird songs that this is Buckingham being Buckingham.
Right.
Yeah.
And loving every second of it.
So
he's like a pig in stew.
Yes. Just so yeah.
Johnny, I'm sorry.
Another listen or two. You have to appreciate that. And then he has the guitar outro, but
right.
It's just okay.
All right, so we have 2 songs left. Love From Here, Love From There. When I was listening to this, like the fact that he has that high pitched guitar solo mixed so high in the mix and these weird wacky solos, like this is truly kind of experimental music once you get towards the end of this album. I loved this song. I feel like it's such a wacky kind of 50s, but a lot of the, there's some older throwbacks, but a lot of the snare drum fills he did were very new wave and modern. So the way he recorded a lot of the drums on this album did kind of rooted in that 80s time, but with some throwbacks. So yeah, Jim.
Just one note about the drums. I mean, I don't like drum machines much at all. I when I was listening through towards the, like when I was getting about to this song, I said, there's not that warmth of a good drummer, a good human presence on drums. It's not I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that's what I felt that time just listening through this. That's what my take on like the drum sound. There is a lot of, that drum machine sound or process drumming or whatever it was. It's not a bad thing, but some great albums, great rock albums, or great, the human touch of the instrument is, the big draw for me.
Yeah, I felt like Lindsey did play the drums on this. Like, obviously,
well, I think there's a lot of there's, especially on Go Insane, there's a lot of drum machine type.
Oh, definitely on Go Insane.
I think there's a lot on this, or I might be hearing it wrong, but
I felt like it was live drums, but with a lot of chorus or flange on the effects. So I thought it was live drums with a lot of effects on there.
I like processing it.
Yeah.
Running it through.
Kind of like the Phil Collins stuff from 81. Like he had so many effects on his drums.
Yeah.
And the stuff that was coming out at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, what'd you guys think of this song?
You got me? Oh.
Go ahead.
Okay. I think it's a very direct description of the scene that Lindsey and a lot of people were getting tired of. like the lyrics really describe all that. And Lindsey is likely describing the absurdity of love that was going on in those circles. Like you hopping. It's becoming the music is very cartoonish,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of like that scene was getting to be like a repetitive cartoon. And this guy with this girl, and they, and another girl, and it's just, the next day, and uh yeah, and like I said, the music is counter to the subject matter. It's
Right.
kind of like it's a comedy, like he described it as a comedy, and this is a comical music with a very like serious. He's being very direct at what was going on in that scene at that time.
All right, Nathan or
I'm
Alicia?
sorry. Which song? Alicia,
I-
go. But which song?
Love from here, love from there.
Oh yeah, okay. Alicia,
The lyrics.
please.
So what you're talking about, Jim, is Stevie passing herself around the Eagles.
Oh shit!
Well, I'm not. Yeah,
not you weren't saying, but you were
But
saying,
that whole-
the
that-
scene of just everybody kind of pass.
Love from
Yeah,
here,
but
love from there.
Yeah.
Lindsey was, I'm
Oh,
looking at
very
what
good.
Lindsey became.
Strong point.
I'm looking at Lindsey became. He ended up with a relationship, 3 children. Now he's divorced. That happens, but he had some stability in his home life for a long, long period.
Well, he seems to be the guy who really did want. It was Stevie, it was this Carol lady, and then it seemed to be his marriage. It seemed like
Yeah,
he wasn't the guy who.
No, come on. He had plenty of. He dated Anne.
Well,
How do you say
there
her
was-
name? Anne Hesh.
Anne Heche, rest in peace.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
There was-
Damn right.
there
Rest
was
in
like-
power, Jeremy. Rest in power.
Oh no,
There was
Fantastic actress.
there was the girl at home, but there was when they were on the road. It's like it's a free for all.
Fantastic actress. My favorite Anne Heche movie was I'm sure movie because I'm not the world's big. I'm a big fan. I'm not the biggest fan. So there are probably movies that she's been in that are better than my favorite, but my favorite was Wag the Dog, and she kind of had sort of a secondary part in that movie, but of course she's an incredible actress. Okay, I'm sorry, Alicia. It's totally
that's fine. It's fine.
rest in power.
Podcast from here, podcast from there. Alicia, you're up.
That's right.
Well, this song made me think of the Beatles here, there, and everywhere. Just the way,
That's such a strong point, actually.
maybe not the subject matter, but the way the lyrics are done and the wording,
Absolutely
and
agree.
writing. So
Absolutely.
All right, well, thumbs up to this one from everybody.
Yeah.
It's a weird song.
It's just like a Beatles song, Alicia. You so it's a Beatles song. All right.
Definitely kind of I could see like a Looney Tunes cartoon to that guitar solo. All right, we have one song left, and it was a cover. It was written by Red Hayes and Jack Rhodes. A Satisfied Mind. So we're ending the
I
first.
didn't realize. Yeah.
We're ending the first Lindsey Buckingham album. Was this a song from the 50s also?
It was
Everybody
like
and their
40s
everybody
even.
and their siblings have covered this. It seems
Yeah.
like, according to the Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
It looks like 1955 was the first chart entry. So
Okay.
the album's ending with the 50s. I thought it was a nice ending to the album. Like Alicia said, it is the book ends.
Yes, when she said that, I thought that he wrote it. I didn't realize, Alicia, that it wasn't an original piece. I love it. Alicia, I think you should talk more about what that means, and maybe that's the theme of this whole album. Isn't it? I don't know. Like, I don't know what do people
Well, it
do
seems
that. I
to
mean,
me
I know
that
that they
was
want us to
always
look at the whole.
Buckingham's goal, him doing the small machine and being more creative. He may not be famous or it may not go up the charts like Stevie's solo career, but he would be more artistic.
Right, which did satisfy his mind, I believe.
Yes, in his soul.
Yeah.
Speaking of Stevie, what about is there anything, there's one artist who is I can just go in my head. I can just go through her albums and I can think of the last song on each one, and I can do a yes or no very quickly in my mind of whether or not that last song sort of captures the essence of either that period in her life or that period of recording the album or writing the songs or whatever. And in every case I've gone through so far, just quickly in my mind, it's like, yes, 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 yes. I bet you she's had that conversation with Lindsey about sequencing albums and stuff like that. And the last one being kind of the final word in the argument or the statement that is the piece of music that it is. And so this one being the last song, satisfied mind, Alicia, that's all. So Stevie's certainly somebody. Do other artists do that too?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the closing track on an album is so important to kind of, because it gives you something to think about and it leaves you like, where's the next chapter going to go?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Usually, I've heard it's usually like the sentimental song.
Right.
Or at least with country acts, it is.
All right, Jim.
Yeah, I think an effective closing track, once you hear it, and then it kind of like, well, I want to start over again and get to this, because this is, like this one's a pretty profound track.
Mm-hmm.
But then that's what when I hear a good ending track, I just want to go to the album, right to the first song, and just play it again.
Yeah.
It kind of it's
strong point.
It kind of sells the rest of the music again and brings it back.
It definitely worked on this album because I listened to it like 3 times in a row. I just kept wanting to go around the cycle.
It's just like any sort of, thing when you leave somebody at the last, if you like them anyway, you say goodbye nicely or you give them a hug or,
Right.
So it's just like any sort of communication or dialogue with two people, you sort of want to have it end on an up beat.
All right, what was your thoughts on this one, Jim?
Yes, this song rings so true now as it did then, even in the 50s, when this, I'm kind of referring to when I first heard it. It puts a nice bow on the album that shows someone wanting to escape the craziness in his life. That's it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
all right. Mm-hmm. Well, any other thoughts on Lindsey Buckingham, Law and Order? I was a lot more enthralled by this album than I expected to be. And I'm not done with it. Like I still want to keep listening to it. Alicia, do you have something to add?
I was just curious. Did he ever perform "Satisfied Mind" live?
That's a good one.
Let's go on set list.
Does somebody
can you do
ask?
See, this is when he puts it up on the podcast or up on his platforms, and everybody.
There's several websites that you can do a reference. There's the Last FM is the one I look at.
Yep, I'm on there right now. I'm gonna see.
Yeah, likelihood of Lindsey and his people listening to this versus who and their people listening to this. I think these are different odds, right?
Well, I'm on the artist, but I'll look after the podcast and see because I want to waste everyone's time.
Right.
Let's go through. What does everybody here rank Lindsey Buckingham, Law and Order? Jim, you go.
9.
Okay. It's an 8.2.
That's a little, Jim. That's a little tough.
A little low.
That's a little tough and low. Yeah.
Well,
hope you have some good reasons here.
I like a good, like a full band.
Okay.
This is not when you go with Stevie, that technically is a full band. You got Stevie yourself, and you got Laurie and Sharon. That adds a whole heck of a lot, and you got Waddy and lots of other players that are in and out of that. That is technically the Stevie Nicks thing is like it's a band's experience.
Yep.
All right.
That, in my opinion.
So 8
This
point,
I agree.
is
8.2, Jim.
yeah.
Okay, Nathan.
I agree with all Jim's reasonings, but for me, when I stack all that up, my math
Okay.
is a 9.5.
Damn.
I'm sorry, I misread the card. It's a 9.3. And
Okay.
so I agree with Jim, but in in terms of reasoning, but not rating. So it's been a fun one. Thanks, JG. Thanks, Alicia.
All right, Alicia, what do you give the Law
Survey
and Order?
says.
Survey says.
Well, I feel it's a solid record from him. It's I'm not, I don't know. It's
I need a number. I need a number, please.
well, I feel like 3 songs I wasn't like ooh all wowed by,
Right.
but the rest of it is I enjoy it by and large, and the 3 weren't incredibly bad. It's not like there's any. I wouldn't say there's any clunkers in the album.
Right. No
Oh boy, the
stinkers.
lyrics on that one track, though. I mean,
I feel like
it's millions and millions of dollars, and he put that. Okay.
Well,
It was I or
it's sometimes just by
No,
listening
tell
you
you
can
now.
enjoy the song for what it is. But yeah, when you start looking through, but that's one of the 3 that.
He paid him
But
$35 million to make that cheeseburger, and he made the one that had those lyrics as the tomato slice. And
Yeah, like, I
that's
feel like
where
I feel what that song doesn't have.
I'm a 9.3. I'm a 9.3. So
All right, everyone, shut up. We're walking all over Alicia. Let her do her rating.
sorry, Alicia.
oh, I mean,
Alicia.
thank you. But so okay, so my mathematical brain, if it was out of 10 songs and 3 of them okay, that gives me a 70. But you add in the 11th, so what is that, like a 7.5 or an 8?
Okay.
But the 3 that I'm not too fond of, I mean, it's not like they're, like I said, they're not clunkers, but they're not the greatest either. So I don't know, an 8 maybe.
Oh,
Okay.
I mean, it's a great
It's the
album.
lowest
I mean,
rating in the group. Well,
once
Jeremy.
you start kind of pulling it apart, it's so yeah.
And the number one reason it's not a 10 is
the 3 songs.
3 songs. Exactly.
Well,
Jeremy, did you
I'm
rate
doing
it?
it mathematically. The 3 that stuck out to me that wasn't is I'll Tell You Now. It was to me that just musically wise, it was just more, I don't know, it just wasn't ooh all wow for me. And then Love Is Here, Love Is There.
Okay.
So
I agree.
the 3 that
I like the pointiness of that stuff.
All right, so when I approach this album, I kind of come from the punk music scene where we kind of recorded stuff at home, did wacky shit on cassettes, and pass it to each other. So when I look at this album as kind of a one-man band, lo-fi, weird dude making an album, some of the stuff sounds a lot like indie stuff that came out decades later. Some of the stuff that people are even doing now.
Oh,
And Jim, it's my turn to talk. You just got to hold on.
Go ahead. I hope I don't forget this.
Don't just write it down, baby. I'm talking.
Okay.
What some of the songs don't have in lyrics, I feel like it made up for in atmosphere. So I give the album 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. All right, Jim, what's your
yes. This is Lindsey's stuff got me kind of this and Go Insane, and this kind of prepped me for Beck. You know the Beck album Odelay?
Yeah.
That is some wild stuff.
Yep.
And his next
I
album
don't know.
after
I've
that
never
was
heard of
pretty
it.
good. What? Like what is it?
Midnight
Loser?
Midnight Vultures was after that, wasn't it?
Okay, yeah. But I think Lindsey may have influenced, not like Beck. I think Becky's his own thing, but it gave license to do weird shit.
Right.
You know, and I mean, I love that. I played that Beck Odelay album a whole heck of a lot. There's that one place, I think there's a song called Jackass. It plays out. It's kind of slow and weird. And there's a gap of like 40 seconds, and then there's like a repetitive music loop that just plays for another, I don't know, half a minute, as I recall. It's strange.
And
And
all
this is
started,
like what's the tie back? What's the tie back, Jim? I'm sorry, I lost track.
The title song, I think
Tie
it's
back. What's the
Jackass.
connection here?
oh that
Oh, okay.
that
Jackass.
some of Lindsey's solo stuff kind of set the precedent for people to
Oh, will you send us a link, please, Jim?
yeah.
I can, well, yeah. It's called a
Okay,
Beck song
great.
called Jackass, and this album is Odelay,
Okay.
Cool.
and it's very out there, but I loved it.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap this up, and I'm going to pause it so you can tell your story.
It's like
after
the anti-pop. I mean, it's
Wrap it
anti-pop
up.
music.
All right. Well, we will
All
be
right.
back next month with Christine McVie's 1984 album. We miss Roland and Steven, Dr. Lerner, but hopefully some of them will be back for Christine.
Mhm.
Thanks always to the Patreon, and thank you guys for diving into this Lindsey album with me. It was definitely this was a different one, wasn't it?
Yes.
And
This was a
Lisa,
fun one.
thanks for taking the time to listen to it when you have so much going on with your traveling and your life.
Right.
So
Yeah.
all right.
You're
Well, I'm gonna
welcome.
pause. I'm gonna pause this because Nathan has a story to tell that he cannot tell on camera. So we will see you all next month.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.